work and do that, everybody shows, he knows. Really, nothing this is.
It'll hit Mr. Donald and everybody leave.
It is now 30. This regular board meeting, take my now 5:30 p.m. October 2nd, 2023. We have a quorum. Mr. Smith will lead us in the pledge of allegiance, followed by Ms. Hayman giving the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time to come before you, and if you will lay your hands on us so that we make the best decisions for the students in our district. We also ask that you please keep a hand on the special family to Tatum ISD, the Center's family this week, as they grieve the loss of an unbelievable educator. We appreciate you, all things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. David, do we have any?
No, sir.
I need a motion to approve the consent item as presented, minutes of the regular board meeting, September 11th, 2023.
Mr. President, I so moved.
We have a motion by Mrs. Smith, second.
I second it, Mr. President.
Second by Ms. McElwain. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? None. Motion carries.
All right, Ms. Sherry Hopkins is going to be doing our bilingual ESL report that is required to be, I guess, by November 1st, I believe. Districts are supposed to have that done. So she is still kind of helping us with our testing in the district as well. So she'll be presenting this short report to the board.
Yes, you won't see any major changes from last year, from this year as far as percentages go. There was a drop going from the middle school to the high school as far as overall percentages last year. Not a drop, an increase, going from 7.99% at the high school last year to 12% this year. I think some of that is due directly to the fact that our reclassification requirements for TEA have changed. So it is becoming a little bit more difficult in order to reclassify them. Some of that was also due to the fact that we did not have scores in a reasonable amount of time, and they are just now completing their LPAC decisions for that. We were able to reclassify a few students in that process, which we didn't have any last year, so we had 5 this year that were reclassified. That simply means that they have moved into a monitoring process for the district in order to just keep an eye on them and make sure they're still making good progress academically, even though that they do have some challenges related to their language barriers in that case. We are still meeting all of the requirements for our teachers to be ESL certified and continuing to encourage our staff to seek that certification where it's appropriate or in addition to their current certifications. At this time, we don't anticipate any further changes. We are very much encouraging our staff to work these kids through the system, pull them in addition to any regular time that they come to them during class, but also during our academic periods and any additional time, because that ESL piece is affecting our accountability more and more. So we want to continue to see them grow and be successful in that area. Any questions?
How many ESL teachers do we have?
I did not look that number up this year. Last year, we were at district-wide, we had 19, went from 19 to 28 last year. So we are continuing to add to that every year. And there are programs available through Region 7 that we're able to encourage our teachers to participate in that will allow them to get that certification, which helps us as a district because we're seeing more and more students come in that meet that requirement.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue. We had one this year, not this year, this week, that was attempting to enroll that spoke no English. Unfortunately, they did not have the documentation necessary in order to enroll. It was a person that had no familial relationship to this child, so we couldn't verify, that they had any legal obligation. And that's scary to think that just some random stranger, is trying to bring a child in, and we have no idea how they came in possession of that child. So we were not able to enroll them, but we are, seeing more and more that we had one last year that did have the appropriate documentation. But that's difficult for a child to come here with no English and, be thrown into that environment. So the more of our teachers that we can get into that ESL certification and that can make those requirements.
And we require that of our new teachers at the lower levels. Plus, we also give them, I believe, $1,000 stipend to get that one time. So we kind of gives them an incentive to go forward with that as well. So
I didn't realize we had that many.
we, you usually have one teacher that does your ESL. That's probably what we've had in the past, but when your ESL population, with our Hispanic population, it is larger, it's the second largest that we have. We need as many teachers as ESL certified because it helps. And so that's why we did that incentive there, to get as many of our teachers ESL certified.
Are they kind of spread out evenly in all the campuses?
So this year, we have about 20% at TPS and primary and elementary. Middle school is 14% and high school is 12%. So overall, as a district, it's a 16%.
And what you'll see is they'll, I don't want to say graduate out of it, but,
They go to the monitoring.
They go into the monitoring stage. And from my personal experience with these students, many of them really do not like taking the TELPAS test, which is what allows them to be reclassified. And the test is not well done by TEA, if I'm just speaking freely. It's not a great measure of their ability, because you've got some very, very intelligent students who are performing, ironically, very well academically, but then they have to go back in and read, write, listen to these English versions of something that was created by someone that has no idea, has little idea of what these students are really going through. And then we're supposed to use that as the tool to decide whether they're being successful or not. So it's very frustrating to our students. And then the second piece of that is if they are in grades 3 through 10, then they have to use the STAR test as part of that reclassification. So it's not just a single prong reclassification. So if they are struggling with their reading, writing skills, that's going to show drastically on their English. Well, then they have to show proficiency on the STAR English test in order to be reclassified. So they get very frustrated. And you have families, some of them just flat out are untruthful because they know that their child is going to be monitored under this system, and they'd rather not be under that restriction. So they just won't tell us that they're a Spanish-speaking household. So it can be challenging, and then that creates additional issues with funding because they're not getting what they need, but our teachers are taking the additional time to try to help.
Yeah.
On a percentage basis of the amount of teachers that we have ESL certified, what percentage of those teachers are actually utilized every day on a day-to-day basis?
I'm gonna I don't know the exact number, this would be strictly, I guess, I'm gonna say between 80 and 85% of them, because they're in the classroom with those students. Those students
So
are
we don't
not
have
out.
some just floating around there with an ESL certification. that are
Not that I'm
not
aware of.
utilized.
No, I know we've got some teachers around here that don't necessarily want to share all those certifications because, they may not want to teach that particular subject, or they may not want to be held accountable in that way, if I'm just being honest. But they, at the same time, the ESL part of it, those kids are in the classrooms. So if they're ESL certified, they're using those ESL skills to address those students. And I keep saying ESL because it's a habit, but they're emerging bilinguals now. So the state has reclassified them. There's a new term for that, so I apologize for that.
It's about a year old, isn't it?
It is about a year old.
So they're EBLs now.
EBLs.
It is emerging bilinguals, yes. Just in case you're in a board training somewhere, you have the appropriate terminology. And I can check on that number to see if. what
No big
percentage
deal, I'm
it is.
just curious.
You ready?
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Our next is our district goal 1 and 3, and Mr. Fight's gonna, our safety man, is gonna have a little discussion real quick, kind of review what we've been doing over the past year. And district goal 1, which is our safety goal.
Of course, looking at this list, and goal one, when we're talking about safety, we know that is the number one thing in America right now when it comes to school. And when the kids feel safe, they learn better. When the parents feel the kids are safe, community is better. There's just a lot of bonuses and pluses in that. So in doing and addressing goal one, these things, when you're talking about what's taking place last year and what took place, these are the things that were put into place as far as extra things and moving forward. The top two right there, EOP, right now, the state of Texas, through Texas School Safety, going through some more extensive requirements as far as things submitting. We did submit our previous one, it passed. We threw another submission, but then they'll come back coming in October. The window is already open where we will submit some additional trained enrollment, severe weather annex. It's 4 of that additional things that we would have to submit with this next submission that they're taking a closer look at. Then 2, part of the requirement by law is having a notification system that teachers are allowed to notify and be able to reach 911 or first responders. That's the second one. We piloted that last year with the TPS campus. We're in the process of last week. A lot of the other campuses got trained, but we'll go back. It should be on go. Actually, it's active right now. It's just a matter of getting those campuses trained as far as full on go throughout the district. We still need to get school services in this building here with that also. Go down to the bottom. Of course, we did add some additional guardians, and 2, the updated car system, which having a new person in that maintenance department and having another person that has some knowledge in it, it's going a lot better. They can talk with their terminology, and I've already wound up as far as finish up, and we can be all online. The problem with that, we need switches, certain switches, because our old system was outdated. Now we got new systems, so the switches, when you're talking about gates, and it's not one in here, those little wireless points that sit in the hallways throughout these buildings, all those things need new switches in to be able to communicate with that lock. So we got all those in, so it'll matter of getting those updated and put in. Wes and Don will be pretty busy. They're very helpful. The company is sending out and kind of working with Don and Wes on getting those things lined out. And also, which kind of goes, we tent, as you know, one time before, that tent was for being nice. But the law came back and said we got to do it a little different. So that will go into place, which we'll have us on it next year. We'll get that started here, probably over the Christmas break, while everybody's gone, because there's a lot into that. It's not just a tent, it goes into the window seal, where you can't just kick it in and break it. It's a little different as opposed to regular tent. And it is not, what's the word, bulletproof, but you can't shatter it. So a bullet will go through it, but it'll take some time kicking it in and trying to go through it. So it is beneficial, and that's one of the reasons why they went with that. Of course, this year we're not up for a 3-year audit. We had that last year, and you got that, the recommendations on those, still with the same requirements as far as the drill recommendations through compliance, and then all of our training. We've had a meeting already this year with our safety and security team, and we'll continue to have those. All of our training is done through Safe Schools and Training Online, and being able to monitor that. Looking at 3.1, goal 3 itself is developing leaders with integrity and the things Probably the best thing I can say on this is when you're looking at this data as far as in the student environment, I guess being here since '08, I've seen it go at its peak, and I've seen it at this point, it's probably at its lowest. So if you look in the area of achieving the goals, all meeting standards, if you look at the total referrals for the student body itself throughout 22, 23, it's 526. If you just go back through the years and look, 1601, 13, 17, it's gone down, and you still, it's about equal from last year, but there's very little problems as far as major issues within the school system. And people can say all they want to say, data is data. And considering kids are behaving, there are still going to be kids and still going to be mistakes made and misconduct. However, when you look at the number and how kids are behaving, we do have great kids. And I'll say that, and of course, once again, you do have those who, there might be some issues tied with it. But however, there's been a continuous decrease or about the same. Even when you look down for a fight, 2 fights at the high school last year. And then on the other campus, having imported alcohol, no referrals for alcohol. Now, are kids drinking product in the community? Yeah, but we typically have caught those at schools. 0 last year. Referrals for drugs, there were 4. But if you look to in certain years, the last 2 has been 6, and even in that particular year in 17, 18, it was 7. And of course, weapons and not having it, that's important when we live in a society right now where guns are so accessible. And then you're talking about bullying, cyberbullying, and harassment. There was nothing in the team submission as far as for Tatum High ISD in these areas, which you hear all these things of what's going on in schools. However, we got to report it by law, and it's not there. So everyone has an opinion, but it's got to be a factual, what's the facts are, and lay them out. So we are doing well in that plan. Of course, part of this whole thing is integrity and creating those, that goes along with the bullying plan that's tied into that. And then extracurricular, what are we doing outside of the academics that's extracurricular to help students and move forward, even co-curricular, the involvement. THS leadership and the leadership that happens at all the campuses, of course, we want students to be involved. And at one time, it was about 95% of the student body was involved in something, which, once again, when you occupy young kids' time, things are better. When you don't, they're probably going to be problems, no different from kids in the classroom and learning. So that participation of having 474, and I want to say that's based on last year's numbers, of course. But when you look at, I want to say this year, we were right under 500 students, probably about 480, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So when you're talking about participation numbers last year, I mean, that's pretty high number. Kids involved in something, whether it's ag, whether it's, drill team, twirling, band, getting kids involved is what we want, and to make them make the most of their high school career, because we know it flies by pretty fast. But also, once again, wanting to make sure that we get them involved in that community service aspect, and let's do as much as we can. I know it's part of the educational foundation as far as receiving and writing the letter. It's amazing because we know principals are begging some students to even sit down and write that essay and say, I'm willing to move forward and have a say in their career, but many still choose not to do that. So our principals are still pushing, trying to get that done and make that happen. Of course, when you look out to the right, there are some areas of improvement with the red. All the green there, you can see there's some good things going on, but with anything, there is room for improvement. So making sure that we improve. Middle school athletics is probably, go out to the right, is the worst, which we knew going in. And that was one of the reasons which Dr. Richardson has had conversations with Coach Keelan about improving it. And that's one of the reasons why this year we even have an middle school athletic coordinator. to kind of help move forward to facilitate that. Because keeping kids engaged at this age is very important because, as Ms. Hopkins will find out, middle school is not the easiest because kids are brutal at that age. They're just trying to find out who they are, what they are, who can I attach to, and they don't care who feelings are hurt in the process. So the number-wise in participation and getting those kids involved in extracurricular activities, because once again, it's not easy to be in these things. And kids, as we know, they want to be involved in it, but they can't sit in the house and expect to be acclimated to these type of things if you're just gonna sit at home. So the participation, number one, we need to work on. And then when you look at down on the bottom, those indicators here, as far as the winning percentage, you go out to the right here, there's some areas that are still to be worked on as far as football, and I want to say the top one's football, and then the two in basketball, which some areas definitely need to work on. The next one, moving on, would be the band. Still, there's some great things going on in our band, but once again, when you're talking about the sheer numbers of where we were, we have dropped in enrollment. However, participation is still at 55 based upon last year, where we were 70 the year prior to, and even 90 the year before. Wanting to continue to increase those numbers to make sure that we get our kids, and most of the time now kids are really focused on one thing, as opposed to being in band and maybe playing another sport. At that time, there's a lot more focus on specializing, pretty much, you can say. So those numbers have gone down tremendously, but continue encouraging. Now, our finishes on this particular year are excellent. Even though the numbers are down, they're still performing at a high level. There's receiving ones as far as in competition, and the number of kids that we have involved and going further, the numbers have gone up. So that's important. Academic side of it, as far as where we are, we finished second, but within our district, once again, we're probably the largest in our district, and we don't fill a full team. And trying to compete, we want to make sure we fill a full academic team because we do have the numbers. So based upon numbers and filling a whole team, we don't. But we did place second this past year in that. And then in UIL, of course, in junior high, we won. And then in elementary, we won. When I play, these things are achieving the goals. And if you see, we were second at THS UIL, first in the other two. So we're still doing some good things academically, but once again, we're making and working against some of those smaller schools. And we want to make sure we're at the highest level. But I think it's two areas at the high school as far as participation, and this will continue to be an issue. With number one would be girls soccer and girls basketball. When it talks about filling 3 teams, probably I couldn't tell you the last time in the last, go back on that number of girls basketball. It's probably been a while. It's been 2 teams you can look throughout that whole time, because most of the time girls either get in cheerleading or drill team or choose to do something else, and they don't play basketball. Or you can say they're getting into more in volleyball or specializing and doing something other than that. We can't fill a girls freshman team, and we hadn't in a while. And the numbers are not there to support to have 3 teams. So that's a red area. And then of course soccer. Just not enough girls in the spring to go out and play soccer. But still working on it. And that's why we got a girls coordinator who hopefully can continue to increase that number. And then if you look at the 2 finishes down at the bottom there, dealing with soccer program, which we made the decision, how do we end up?
Staying.
Staying, okay.
Yeah, we stay.
So we end up staying in that district, and it'll be tough, based upon, as you see, the numbers of participants out there and the people that we got to play. It will be a tough task. However, people spoke and felt that they could make it and make it work, which hopefully we can overcome the obstacles.
Which with soccer, we're playing in bigger schools, right?
Yes.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, we're playing the carts, skill balls, which makes it tough because they pretty much double your emotion.
But we'll have Tenon in the group this year. That'll be lower than us.
And we know Tenant Hall's smaller, so they'll get a piece of the pie. Be interesting.
Back on the girls' basketball, can our district handle 3 teams?
Not usable.
Not,
That's what I said, we just not having any games.
kind of like volleyball. I mean, even sometimes it depends, even in football. If we filled a freshman team, you would have to probably go out and find them games because most teams that we play in our district won't have it.
Same way with boys basketball too.
Soccer,
It just makes a lot more work for that particular coach of 80 to find games. And we're talking about like, I think, last week before, we played Judson,
Foster.
Foster. You have to go to a 5A school, one of their middle schools to get a game. It's tough.
We beat them, what, 30-something?
30-0. So you can see the finishes on the high school side of it. You go out. There's some areas to work on as far as meeting the standard, and that standard is not set high because you're only talking about 60% of winning as far as the record, which 4 teams in the playoffs, I mean, even with our 6 and 5 there, that didn't quite hit the muscle. So we want to set a standard and we want to stick to it and move forward as far as getting that up to where we want to be. Hopefully we'll be better and get better. That's the goal.
Thank you, Mr. Pike.
The biggest thing that sticks out to me is the stagnation in the leadership at leadership participation at high school level community service.
Yeah, and that can possibly go up if we were to use the Education Foundation, because now they have to volunteer hours to get the scholarship. But it's also not an accurate thing to put down there, let's say 64, because 64 kids did community service for that one thing too, because this is more of 17 different projects, I guess, so to speak. So that we could actually add 18 there, because I don't know if that's part of the 17 that's in there right now. Okay. The other thing that we've talked about too is putting out the flags for Lions Club. That would be a great service project for some of our kids to do too. That's community service as well. We can think of a lot of things, but.
And when you talk about, well, I can say leadership groups, so there was a lot of kids at the high school who might, I know at the primary, they utilize kids that are good in math, come over them to the kids. Well, it goes down as far as, they're not part of leadership per se, but they're going and giving back and doing something to serve. That's really not on there, because they're not part of a leadership group, and it's really not going to count as community service as far as one of those groups. So that group is not involved in that. You're really missing that group.
And see, it says right here, Student Council, NHS, International Club, FCA, FFA, band, cheer, drill team would be leadership groups. Is that correct?
Yes.
Like the football boys open, would that, I mean, they open the doors for the kids at the primary school?
But I don't think they're a part of a,
No, it's not, yeah.
no.
But they're
Party
doing community
club.
service.
Not really.
I don't think so.
It's not community service.
What you're saying, you're talking about cleaning.
Yeah.
What did we have in,
Responsibility to do something for the community.
Community service is going to be Pink Out fundraiser to benefit the community,
Right. Something
for
to get
cancer,
community
blood
involved
drives,
in. Inviting them in to do things.
single.
You know, we had that day, that the kids divided up into groups and went around town and a beautification day.
Right.
Remember that?
Right.
We used to have that where the
Mhm.
kids would, get a project and.
Mhm.
they would go
Do it in the
in.
spring.
Yeah,
That's what I was gonna ask. I mean, what were we doing different in 17, 18, and 18, 19 to where, you know, in 17, 18, we had 37 different projects, and now we're down to 17. Is it because we don't have that leadership? We don't have anyone in the leadership roles?
Well, I can tell you, like art club, I'm not sure if that's on there. Is that the same one?
This says band, Christmas parade, Christmas caroling, spring concert, drill teams, virtual pep rally, Christmas parade, spring mini camp, spring show, NHS 710 hours of community service, school faith groups, cheer. They did put cheer down as TPS, TES, Friday car lanes, flocking, Halloween on the Hill, special education field day, nursing home visits.
Anything when you
Something we
bring
don't
on.
have when there's volleyball, as far as they're having to coach the little bumpers.
oh,
And I mean,
absolutely.
they're volunteering,
Yeah.
putting in some hours and having to,
Mhm,
because they have games and practice after their own practice.
mhm.
A lot of them are helping out with little dribblers as
And I was
well.
gonna say, I don't, does the basketball coach, I don't know, of the boys,
Yeah,
do
I
they?
would say so.
I know Bradley kind of helps kind of run
I know there's a couple of things we probably don't have on their indicators.
that. We'll look at that.
And the thing about it, this is given principals and they're asked to give me all your organizations and the things, because I don't want to leave something out, make somebody feel bad. So
Right.
they're responsible for getting like the numbers and saying, okay, here's what we've done as far as community service. You know, even when I was a middle school principal, taking a group to the nursing home during Christmas and, you know, giving out, goodie bags and making quilts and painting art and handing it out. Those type of things are, you know, giving back and doing something involving communities. That's what you're kind of looking for.
Yeah, you should require it for senior nursing home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and even in the elementary, you know, they would,
Rhythm
they
teams
did,
and-
yeah, rhythm teams,
Right.
yes.
Really.
Rhythm teams.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never made it. I remember.
All right, anything else? Thank you, Mr. Fight. A lot of information. Oh, I guess you're up, Mr. Fight, again, Jack. Four. Sorry.
Okay, each school district and its taxes required by law to establish this particular committee and council. I highlighted, went through some highlights and things. Of course, there's required dates that you gotta have to meet the minimum and requirements. A highlight would be this past year, they wanted to incorporate more participation from the students to get a more of a idea from students from their perspective, as opposed to a bunch of adults meeting and sitting and talking what's best. So those things involving student participation. One of the other requirements as far as it came about was physical education having an adopt a PE program or curriculum. We kind of had different ones, different campuses this past spring. They all went, got trained in the CATCH programs, K through 8, actually K through 12 now, deals with the CATCH program. It's a curriculum that's by the state. The Region 7 teaches and you can go. Of course, last year at the end of the year, hiring a mental health counselor, which would be beneficial as far as with this particular council. And this year too, having it, I got it probably 2 weeks ago, which we ordered it last year and putting it in place as far as purchase of an AED in here. So we have a lot of visitors throughout the day. Somebody comes in from the outside, something happens to them in here. The only problem of it is right now, trying to get with Ms. Cooper to find time to train people in our building, because there's somebody who can come in at any moment and we have to go out the machine and knowing how to use it. Even on tonight, somebody at the board meeting, something happens or we get a full house, somebody get upset, pass out, something goes, wrong. We got it here and we don't have to go run searching and finding or waiting on Mr. Cody and Mr. Gibson, to come in, and by the time they get here, it could be too late. So providing our own, having that and being trained, that's what we're looking at, taking care of that. So we did purchase one and have one.
How many do we have across our whole campus?
Ooh,
Oh, we got one in the Coliseum, indoor, I believe.
yes.
Each campus has one.
Everybody's trained.
The coaches are trained in it. It's very simple to use. Like right now, if something, you were to go grab it, open it up, it tells you, it's real big. It tells you where to put the paddles and everything. So it's real simple to use. We have a mobile one also, I believe our trainer carries to the games, and I think Joanne has one also, but, you know, we just felt like we needed one here. You know, there's events that go on in the community room, you know, we could, if we had to, we could run in there, or auditorium in the cafeteria, you know, it's just making it more accessible. So,
Yeah, they're simple, and you really can do it without the training.
oh, yeah, yeah.
But
it lays
it
it out for you.
intimidated our employees, so I made them do the training so they wouldn't be intimidated by it and feel comfortable using it, so it's, they've
And
come a
we'll-
long ways.
And we did the Stop the Bleed with the staff probably 3 years ago, and we'll probably bring that back again with the staff that want to do that, and we'll require some staff to do that anyway. Because we found we had an incident at the auditorium one night, and I came over here to get the Stop the Bleed kit, and when I went back over there and opened it up to work on this little girl, everything was kind of stuck together. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So Jax, at the time he was in high school, I knew I had one in his truck for hunting, so I found his truck, went out there and grabbed it, and we were able to bandage that up before the ambulance came there. Saved her life. It was just, you know.
Which was about a 40-minute wait that night.
Yeah, it was about a 40-minute wait, yeah.
Hey,
So, no. But yeah, we found out real quick that they will go bad, you know, they'll melt, get crunchy, so we ordered all new ones of those too. Thank you, sir. All right, the next item is our Panola County Appraisal District Board of Directors. Again, you can submit all of these names. You could do one, but before October the 30th, we'll receive a ballot, and then we'll cast the votes before the December 15th. And in the past, y'all have either picked one or you picked all. But I'm not saying you have to do either one. Matter of fact, I think there was someone, Ms. Sloan, that did not.
Cody.
Cody, yeah, it does not. So I guess there's 4. So it is the board's pleasure, however they see fit. It is an action item.
Well, Keith Williams is definitely a yes, and I look,
And I think C. Larry always says we give all 5 to Keith Williams.
Yes.
Jerry Henson, and he the one that owns the radio station.
Yes.
Do we do it right now? or-
Yeah, you'll have to have a motion.
Oh,
I make
yeah,
go ahead.
I make a motion that we give all 5 to Keith Williams.
Have a motion to give all 5 my votes. Big Keith, Keith Williams, a second.
I said,
Have a second by Ms. Hayes. Any more discussion? All in favor? All opposed? None motion carries.
Just real quick, yeah, let me run in there real quick.
All right. Board now convene in closed meeting, to discuss the following items posted on the agenda as this evening, allowed by Texas Government Code 551.74, discuss superintendent evaluation estimate and the regulation employee and special personnel. The vote will take place in closed meeting, any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in open meeting. It is now 6:10 PM.
Thank y'all.
Would you